izitulo ukwenzela bofikayo abambe phaa ngasemva khombeni leso sicelo. Okwesibini, wonke inkokheli zokwenza i-messages of support ndizayicela ize ngapha ngaphambili. Nkosi, ingakhabe nicula comrades. Ufuna iprogram ne? Amandla. Kawethu. Long live South African Communist Party. Long live African National Congress. Long live Congress of South African Trade Unions. Long live the undying spirit of Comrade Chris Hani. Matla. Comrades, mandinibulise ngale njikalanga. Ngoku sesimele ukuthi siqale comrade i-public lecture ka-Commander uChris Hani. Ndizawucela ucomrade abemnye asihlabelele umhobe wesizwe.
Murena buluka sichaba sesu ufedise tintwaki matswenye ho usibuluke Sibuluke Murena, Sibuluke, Sithabasa, Yesu, Sithabasa, South Africa. Amandla.
Awethu. Nkosi ma comrade. Bandinibulise comrades. Ndibulise nakwinkokheli ezingaba zilapha. Zemibutho ngemibutho esisebenzisana nayo njenge South African Communist Party. Ndingatyanga xesha komle bafuneka si-observe i-COVID regulations. Funeka siphume kwa eli apha. Namhlanje comrades sidibana apha ngalomhla we-17 kule nyanga kaApril. Sikhumbula elinye sizokhumbula elinye lamagorha alapha eMzantsi Afrika. Hayi eMzantsi Afrika kuphela eAfrika nakwihlabathi. What we may call boldly a proletarian internationalist, Comrade Chris Hani, who was assassinated on the 10th of April, 1993, on the eve of our democratic breakthrough. Nto leyo ke comrades, kuwo wonke amazwe athalwe linkululeko, on the eve ye-freedom, ziba khona inkokheli eziwayo, zibulawa lutshaba. Ingakumbi ezo inkokheli utshaba lithela kuzi-assessa, likhangela izi-strength nee-weaknesses zazo. Lifumana ukuthi izi-strength outweighs i-weaknesses. So that means lo mntu, in that new order abazayibuilda akazusincedisa. UComrade uChris Hani, comrades, ngomnye waloo maqabane. Sizokuthi apha comrades, we want to be like Chris Hani. That's all what he is for. We want to be like Chris Hani, njengabantwana olutsha lwaseCuba. Even today elithi lifuna ufana noChe Guevara. Ngaloo mazwi comrades, ndiyayivula le public lecture. Ndizawuthi go through ke comrades i-program, I'm sure aninazo. I-opening comrades, i-program yethu yanamhlanje, lena seyenziwe, ibe welcoming and acknowledgement ezakwenziwa ngu-District Secretary wethu, uSiyabonga Mdodi. Ibe zi-messages of solidarity. Isithethe ngasinye ke comrades sinemizuzu mihlanu. I-YCL comrade u-District Secretary wayo, uComrade uXolisa Faku. ISanko, uComrade Nokonwaba Matikinga. ICOSATU, message of support yayo, izaba nguMandulo Kama. I-African National Congress, izaba ngu-acting chairperson wayo, umawethu Magata. Sibe ne-introduction of i-guest speaker yethu comrades. Yona sayenzelwa lilungu le-Provincial Executive Committee, uComrade umawethu Khune. I-keynote address izabe isenziwa nguButi Manamela, oyi-Central Committee member of the South African Communist Party. I-vote of thanks sizayenzelwa ngu-Deputy District Secretary, uComrade uMnyamezeli Ndlazi. That is the program of today, comrades. Imfutshane kanjani. Over to you, Nobhala, nge-item yesibini.
Amandla. 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 Awethu. Awethu. FIFA, South African Communist Party, FIFA. FIFA, South African Communist Party, FIFA. FIFA, COSATU, FIFA. FIFA, ANC, FIFA. Chikichela ufasimba, chikichela. Jikijela ufasimba, jikijela. Hands off, Cuba, hands off. Hands off, Venezuela, hands off. Phambili ngenkululeko eSwazini, phambili bo. Phambili ngokubhatalwa kwabasebenzi be-public service, phambili bo. Phambili ngokubhatalwa kwabasebenzi be-public service, phambili bo. Amandla. Thank you very much, comrades. Mine is a short one. Chair, having started welcoming all of us in the Chris Hani public lecture organized by the Skenjana Khochi district. This is our first physical program. Koko kwaqala loqulu kubhede we-COVID-19. Our program therefore serves to also reactivate our red brigades as we prepare for elections. So that we have our red brigades ready. Nangona izoba khona imini to launch our red brigades. And also our program, comrades, we're remembering Chris Hani in the year of the centenary of our party. And therefore it's important for the party to commemorate its heroes, to commemorate heroes of the movement. Chris Hani was not only a hero of our party, he was a hero of the movement. He was a hero of the people, not only of the people of South Africa, of the people of the world. So to avoid the temptation yokwenza lecture ekhona uComrade uButi to do that, inkokheli ezikhoyo phakathi kwethu, imibutho ekhoyo phakathi kwethu nenkokheli, ikhona leadership of the South African Communist Party from the Provincial Executive Committee, led by Comrade Mawethu Khune. Vivisa nje kule ndawo kuyo Comrade Mawethu. Leadership of African National Congress, led by acting regional chairperson Comrade Mawethu Makhata. Comrade Antonio Karels, regional secretary of the ANC, phakathi kwethu. And Boneno Comrade Umalizo Phutu, treasurer of the ANC. No Comrade Princess Faku, RC member of the ANC. The leadership of Namanya Comrade ANC akhoyo. And the leadership of abasebenzi abangabhatelwanga ngurhulumente, led by Comrade Kama, namanya leaders of COSATU ezikhoyo apha, ibe leadership of abahlali SANCO, abahlali ke bathi sonke singamalungu wabo. Shorter J form, led by Comrade Unokonwaba Matikinca. And other leaders, Bonile no chairperson and Mboni Ngoku. And the leadership of the Young Communist League of South Africa, uFasimba, district secretary and Mbonile Ngena, Comrade Xolisa Faku. And Comrade Obama, representing the Youth League. I go Obama Bonanzi Kabalake, Ondela Sokoman. Noga Gazolani Tibana Pagla, delegation COSATU. And from the District Executive Committee, Comrade Chairperson, Program Director, and Amhlanje, Comrade Umlandeli Ngafuna. Ibe Comrade Ndlazi, Comrade Churchill, Deputy Secretary. And leaders of sub-districts of the party and leaders of branches of the South African Communist Party, you are all welcomed, comrades, in this program. If Communist Party in the district will have programs of this similar nature to reactivate ourselves, to commemorate our leaders, to build a strong party, to build a campaigning party and to build an independent profile of the Communist Party. Sizanibiza qho branches of the party ngakumbi nje basilungiselela unyulo. Ukwenzela basincedisana nogxala ababanzi asithi kutheni kodwa ukwenzela basisebenzisane neANC to ensure overwhelming victory of the African National Congress in the forthcoming, in fact, the overwhelming victory of our alliance. Ngoba la victory zaba yethu si alliance. Funa sikhumbuze lento kwenzela akakufuneka sifikelele kwela nqanaba loba sithume abantu eluhulumentweni sikhumbule ba ngumcimbi wethu sonke lo ukwenzela sikwazi ukuchophela sonke as equal partners in the alliance. Ngalo mazwi comrades, you are all welcomed. I don't want to take too much time, and thank you very much, Chair.
Mandla. Comrades, sigqithela kwisolotya elilandelayo. Ela solotya the messages of support. Comrades, ndizawubiza Young Communist League of South Africa. District Secretary wayo, uComrade uXolisa Faku, besenditshilo kwe-comrades sonke sinemizuzu emihlanu. Khani mphakamiseni ngegwijo comrades.
Mandla, Mandla, Mandla. Viva the South African Communist Party, viva. Viva the African National Congress, viva. Viva COSATU, viva. Viva Sanko, viva. Roar, Young Lions, roar. Malbongwe. Kamalo mama. Jigijela, Fasimba, Jigijela. Each one. Teach one. Thank you very much, comrades. The chair of the session, the YCL provincial leadership present here, the South African Communist Party provincial leadership present here, the SACP Central Committee members present here, COSATU leadership present here, the African National Congress leadership present here, leadership of the Progressive Youth Alliance, distinguished guests, comrades and friends. Comrades, I think it's important that we must appreciate the efforts that has been made by our national government that is led by the African National Congress. That today, for the first time, Nopala, after a lockdown, were able to meet physically. This indeed is an attest, comrades, that our leadership in the national government, as led by the African National Congress, has stood the test of time. It is important, comrades, that we also appreciate the efforts and the responsibilities that has been bestowed upon each and every South African citizen. That we continue to observe the national regulations as enshrined in the COVID command. Now, comrades, we continue to appreciate the efforts that have been made by the government that is led by the African National Congress in addressing the national question. And we continue to appreciate the role that the Communist Party has always played in contesting the state power. Because I think it is important that, Nopala, we need to emphasize the issue of the state power. That the party has always contested the state power from 1994 through the leader of the alliance, which is the African National Congress. Those who opportunistically think that the SSCP will take the logo of the party to the ballot box, that is an opportunist view when I know Pal. On behalf of the 4th Congress of the District Committee, comrades receive our special revolutionary greetings from a militant, vibrant, and conscious fighting soldiers of socialism in Skenjanakhoji district. We are highly privileged, comrades, that today we are addressing this gathering of the vanguard in the district of Skenjanakhoji. It is a privilege, comrades, that we convene here whilst we are commemorating the passing of our late General Secretary and the Chief of Staff of Umkhonto weSizwe. Comrades, since the relaunch of the Young Communist League in 2003, the YCL has become a preparatory school for the party. It remains an autonomous structure, yet not independent from the party. We must never dare to fail on our generational mission, inspired by the 1976 generation, who confronted the barbaric and brutal system of apartheid. As young people, we remain inspired by this revolutionary quote. I quote, "Youth can be leaders of tomorrow. If we procrastinate, ain't no other power like the power of youth, because the power of youth don't stop. If you must dream of the world you want to live in, dream out loud. Youth are the solution, not the problem. Nothing about us without us." Close quote. Comrades, the YCL in 2005 adopted the 10 youth demands, which are of the view that, most of these demands we managed to influence our allies and the government. Thus, we received them and resolve on the 10 youth front. These fronts will be advanced for the next decade in our quest to establish the building blocks for socialism and strengthening our vanguard party. The party has always given the YCL space to breathe, obviously under its guidance. We are here today to bring fresh ideas, radical proposals to our party. We so wish to inherit being relevant. Our party remains the vanguard of the working class and the poor. However, this should not just be a paper tiger. We are not apologetic about the stance of our party. Must take in relation to the state power. You cannot forever filled with power, but being afraid to be intimate. Mao Zedong once said, I quote, "At no time and in no circumstances should a communist place his personal interests first. He should subordinate to the interests of the nation and of the masses. Hence the selfishness, slacking corruption, seeking of a limelight, and are most compatible, while selflessness working with all energy, one's energy. We must also fight wholeheartedly devotion to the public duty and quite hard and work in command respect. Now, these words of Chairman Mao Zedong reminds us that as young people, we might not inherit some of the gains that we have fought. Because Mao Zedong once said to Chairman Mao, in order for us to destroy the China that we don't want, in order for us to have the China that we want, we must destroy the China that we don't want. And that is the China that was led by the British imperialists. Today, they've managed to destroy the China which they didn't want, but many generations did not benefit from the struggles that we see today. So it's important, comrades, that whatever that we do, we must not do it because we want to benefit ourselves. We must do it so that our next generation can benefit, even if we have left this earth, comrades. Now, a former Central Committee member of the Communist Party of China, Ulu Shaoqi, identifies some of the common wrong tendencies and ideology in his article of how to be a good communist. Nevertheless, there was no terrible problem here. But after all, it is not a bad thing that people turn to the Communist Party, enter it seeking a way out of their predicament and approve its policy. They are not mistaken in coming to us. We welcome them, everyone except for the enemy agents, traitors, careerists, ambitious climbers. Secondly, fairly strong individualism. Members of our party, this type of a self-seeking individualism often manifests itself inside the party, an unprincipled quarreling, factional struggle, sectarianism, departmentalism. It manifests itself in disrespect for the willful vision of our party discipline. Once a cadre of the party loses discipline, the party line is lost. And when a comrade is gone, it's gone. So it's important, comrades, that we must ask ourselves this critical question. Do we emulate what Utatu Chonyane stood for? It's very sad, Chair, that today the national question is being delayed because councillors are demanding food in a virtual meeting. A whole councillor who receives a salary will delay service because there's no food that has been delivered. Yet that person is sitting at home. Now we must ask ourselves very critical questions, comrades, that are we here because we are all invited, but everyone came? I want to say, not all has been invited, but everyone came. So we must ask ourselves these critical questions, comrades. That what are we doing in order for us to be like Chrisan? Because Tina, as the Young Communist League, we inspire to be like Comrade Chrisan. Mandla! Way two! Long live socialism, long live!
Nkosi comrade uFaku, masidlule comrades. Siye kwisthethi sesanko, comrade Nokonwaba Matikinga. Over to you, comrade.
Isango siyayazi kumbutho wabahlali jikelele. Isango siyayazi kumbutho wabahlali jikelele, 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 amandla. mandikhahlele njengomhlali uyabona ke andizukwenza njengesiqhelo namhlanje nobhala. Ndizawukhahlela. Ngoba ke njengoba singabahlali sihamba nazo neenkosi. Ndinge ndimve kunobhala athi hayi asingobafana nkosi thina. Mandibulise kakhulu ndibulele kakhulu kusihlalo ndibulele na kwi-Communist Party ngokusimema apha. Ndibulise kuyo yonke leadership ekhoyo apha ngaphakathi, ndibulisa amakhosikazi, ndibulisa i-African National Congress, ndibulisa abantu abatsha, amayanga. Ndibulisa wonke umuntu, andifuni utya ixesha. Into ebangela uba ndingafuni utya ixesha into yoba ndikholelwa ukuba kuthiwe xa besimenywa apha namhlanje kwathiwa yi-memorial lecture kaChrisane. Ndathi ke xa ndiyitolika mna le nto ndacinga uba thina singabahlali sizorhatyuliswa. Yitolike ngolo hlobo. Abahlali ke banezinto kodwa noxa sizorhatyuliswa nje abathi hayi makhe sizishiye nje apha etafileni ukwenzela uba whilst sifumana lo mrhabulo noko nathi siyishiye imessage kwisikhokhelo. Ndiyafuna kubulisa leadership endihamba nayo sephumile uGcogco ongu-deputy secretary ngenxeni yoba bekhona enye commitment ndiyacinga unobhala bembonile esihlalo. Ukhona nosekela sihlalo phaa ngasemva lo kaGqithani uMatshaya endihamba naye. Ukhona naye uphiwe endicinga usaphumile nje olilungu elongezelelweyo phaa kwisanko. Ndiyafuna umbulisa uMafaku, Comrade Princess nobhala ndikubonile ndibulisa wonke umuntu. Ndisithi ke ngalomhla obaluleke kangaka. Sinalo myalezwana mncinci kuthiwe just 5 minutes, it can be even less than 5 minutes. Ngoba senzela into yobana sive sizotyebisa indlebe. Yes, singabahlali siyamazi uComrade uChrisane. On the 10th of April, we remember very well 1993. Apho andizuthi ndandimncinci kodwa I was younger than I am now. Ndandiqala ukubona amadoda mosithina kuthi amadoda wakhali. Kodwa ndandiqala ukubona amadoda elila. Specifically when I saw uGeneral Olumisa, Comrade uTokyo Skhwale simbukele eTV, sandimbone ke yena ngemehlo lenyama. Ndababona belila. It was a very sad day, comrades. And xa kusenziwe ezi commemorations thina singabahlali we are always reminded of that particular day. Kodwa siyayazi uba namhlanje asizanga zowulila kodwa ngoku sizowubuzana imibuzo yokuba senzani ke ngegazi likaChrisane. Okulandelayo kukuba we are not just sihlalo associated as isanko ne-Communist Party specifically just to comply and grace the alliance. But the understanding esinayo yokuba i-Communist Party is the fighter for the poor. And it is for that reason that singabahlali asipolitiki mosthina. But it is for that reason that we associate ourselves with the Communist Party and the rest of the alliance. Siye sibone ke abahlali befuna uyiphithanisa lento ngenxa yento basingabahlali aba-progressive. Fumanisa uba kukhona okukuleqeka kokufuna ukuyipolitikela yonke lento. Kanti ke akhona amaqonga okupolitika xa ufuna upolitika ungcotshe. Yes, siyavuma iprogress ikhona, Comrade Makhatha. Futhi siyayingqina asidispute iprogress ikhona. Ndikhe ndathi ndivela ngapha koomasipalati baseChrisane ndihamba ngobusuku ndabona into yobana awukwazi uqiniseka into yoba sowufika egcuwa ngoku because yonke indawo ilayitile. I've been around ndisiya koMoltino seeing that zakhiwe izindlu zenziwe izinto. Ayisekho laa nto yokuba ubone umbane ulwatyuza usuka komnye umfama uyotshona komnye umfama, wonke umuntu ulayitile. Andizunde ndingene ke kwi-detail yale progress endithetha ngayo, which we agree esiyibonayo singabahlali. But sifuna nje urejistarisha le ndawo as uba sizawuhlala phantsi, simamele, sive into yokubana ithini i-Communist Party ngegazi likaChrisane. Sithi leadership abantu basaxhomekeke kwi-grant. Granti leyo efika ezandleni zabo ngola suku bayifumana ngalo yawugqiba imke ezandleni zabo. Abahlali bayikroba ngefestile lento kuthiwa luqoqosho. Bafumana igranti namhlanje, bahambe bayoyichitha kwezi supermarket zithengisa ukutya, siphilela nje ukutya comrades, which is so unfair. Emveni koko kube kuphelile. And le grant nje bansitsho ihamba ngalamini abantu bayifumene ngayo. And then you find us nje babe senditshilo sibhizi ke ngoku sisilwa kwesa space sepolitiki. Iba zintloni ubone, ndiza kwenza umzekelo ke ngale ndawo ndihlala kuyo. Uyawubona from Monday to Friday wonke umuntu ulikrozo ubhebhisho. Kushiyeke amadlagusha ezitapatela kwi-economy. Thina mhlali ngaphambili siqondene nokususana, nokubekana, nokususana, nokumonelana, nokulwa, nakule misetyenzana sesiyifumene siyalwa. Siyaxabana every day. Siyafuna into yobana khe nisirhabulise sive into yobana yile nto wayeyilwelana uChrisane lesikuyo. Abantwana bethu bathe gabhu kwi-drugs. I-drug rehabilitation centers are quite expensive. Abantu abangomama bayahlukunyezwa. Nearly 30 years laphalalayo igazi likaChrisane. Phanga semva ndingayimoshanga nje program yakho, ndiyafuna xa ndithetha ngalomba ndiphakamisa abafana banxibe zanto ziblue ndizawuhlala phantsi. Sine program esiregistarishileyo naba bafana banezilambe ezithi community in blue. Ngicela niphakame nje bafana. Ndifuna itafilini bone. Sinala program nobhala through you chair. Ebhalwe community in blue apha ngemva singusanko. Esizama ukulwisana nale meko siyitshoyo yokuba abantwana bethu bethe nkqu kwi-drugs. Sithi ke masizoregistarisha loo nto. Because we do not believe singabahlali ukuba this is what Comrade Chrisane fought for. Sikholelwa ekubeni ba ikhona lento isafuna ugqityezelwa. Siyayazi ba kuyasetyenzwa yi-leadership esikhokheleyo. Kodwa siyaphela isizwe simnyama. Singade sibe asiyimangcwabeni. Kodwa siphelela emgqomeni ngenxa yemeko esizibonayo nesihleli kuzo singabahlali. Ngalo mazwi ke sithi noko xa sekukhona engqonyela evela pha ku-national masiwabeke la mazwi ukwenzela into yobana sizokwazi ukubuyela ebahlalini sinethemba, sibanika ithemba ngoba ithemba liphelile ebantwini. Sele kuntshula ngoku kwamntu nomntu esithi nam ndiyaya ku-2021 kuzaba bhanya phaya abantu beyothetha into engekhoyo bonke besithi bamele thina sibe thina sifuna iprogress. Uyabona ke lento xa ndizawuhlala phantsi ndiya-attesta kule nto ithethwa nguComrade athi nee-councillors ngoku zibhizi zisixelela ngokutya. Ufumanisa uba angakhange asebenzi uComrade uba ngaba nditsho noba bekungekho virtual nakakade angakhange asebenzi uComrade uba ngaba ukutya akukho. Amandla zethu.
Bethetha isintu, isintu kuyasitolikwa. Ngoku comrades sizawubiza isithethi sombutho wabasebenzi, i-Congress of South African Trade Unions. Ucomrade uMandulo Kama azokwenza i-message of support.
Amandla, 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 amandla. Comrade, khawuhlabele man la ngoma besiqale ngayo. Mhlaba wonke esandleni sabantu. Akunamuntu ongaphatha umhlaba yedwa. Umhlaba wonke esandleni sabantu. Akunamuntu ophatha umhlaba yedwa. Ayesaba lamabhusha ongcowa. Kuba befuna usetyenzelwa abantu. Ayesaba amabhusha ongcowa. Kuba befuna usetyenzelwa abantu. Umhlaba wonke esandleni sabantu. Amandla, amandla, amandla. Uba ibingazubalwa kum le ngoma sihlalo, benza iyeka iqhube. Qha noloyika into yobana usuke kuyibale kula 5 minutes yam. Long live the spirit of Comrade Chris, long live. Long live the African National Congress, long live. Long live the South African Communist Party, long live. Long live COSATU, long live. Phila ngona phakade Sanko, phila ngona phakade. Long live the ANC Women's League, long live. Long live the ANC Youth League, long live. Long live the YCL, long live. An injury to one. Andla. Mandizibulisele kwi-leaders ze-alliance partners ezikhoyo apha namhlanje ndingazicalucalulanga ndibulise kakhulu kuni maqabane alapha eFlorini. Sihlalo ndiliparalegal. Kukho into ke edla ngosibangela into yobana siziwini icase kumqashi. Laa nto kuthiwa i-consistency in the application of discipline. Uyiyekile yatyatyadula i-YCL. Mhlawumbi ke nathi uyawusiyeka sityatyadule. Because if uza kusiyekisa i-inconsistency leyo in the application of your rules. Comrades ezibabe besetshiwo igama lami nguMandulo Kama, the Deputy Secretary, the Deputy Chairperson of the local, enkulu ke phofu yalapha eMonti, ekhokelwa nguComrade from Nehau. Ndiwabona amaqabane eNehau apha. Sihlalo masibulele ngento yobana nisimeme into yobana sokwenza i-message of support. Xana nikhumbula the late uChrisani. Mhlawumbi ke as leaders zeSikheja Nakhoji district masiniqhwabele izandla ngokuba ni consistent in remembering all your fallen leaders. More so, comrades, the leaders who have contributed immensely to the liberation of the people of South Africa, like the comrade uChrisani. Umhlawumbi nathi as COSATU besimele uba sibe siyathini siyafunda kwinkqubo eyenza ngayo ipati ngokumana ikhumbula iinkokheli zayo ezathi zasishiya. Mhlawumbi ke nathi as COSATU sinamashwa kangaka nje because we don't celebrate i-leaders zethu ezathi zasishiya. Kuba ke at no stage apha iCOSATU khona ikhime ithi sikhumbula ogomomo ikhumbule zonke inkokheli zayo. Simane nje sisenza i-messages of support kwezi alliance partners zimane zikhumbula inkokheli zazo. Mhlawumbi ke nathi siqunjelwe zizinyanya yilento kunzima. Kunzima kakhulu makawana. Sihlalo we are from the CC as COSATU. Sine resolution, two painful resolutions that we took on that CC. One, the resolution yokuqala ke ngithanda ukuthi kusestopini. Eyesibini is to mobilize our members to go to strike. Maniqale kule resolution yokuqala ndithi kusestopini. Ndimvile ucomrade we-YCL, ucomrade uFaku, eyithetha into yocontest state power, eyikhumshe ibeka ngamagama. Ipati yakhe yasuka comrades, I'm not sure whether it is the last Congress or it was a special Congress. Yabuya isithi iresolvile. They are going to contest the state power. Savuya singabasebenzi asukuxoka because savuya singabasebenzi xa sisiva ipati kusithiwa is going to contest the state power. Kwathe thubeni apha ekuhambeni sayiva imane lelantuka imane ixutywa le resolution ixutywa ingathi ngu-step aside. Yaxutywa ingathi akho resolution ixutywa ingathi ngu-step aside. Iyafana ke nale resolution yepati yocontesta i-state power ixutywe yade yaphela. Uyabona kukho i-exhibit, akukho le nto kuthiwa yi-exhibit xana kubanjwe umsebenzi. Kwabanjwe umsebenzi enotywala bamane besela begalama.
Comrades, ngiyacela man, into esiyenza yapha ngasemva mayingaphazamisi inkqubo lena silo, please comrades.
Bamane begalela amanzi. Saxa kufuneka sibheke ekheyisini kwabe sekushiyeka amanzi odwa kulaa bhotini. Yilo mxubaxubo kawenzeka kulaa resolution that was taken by ipati. Iphela resolution yaphela emoyeni. Uba benimamele kakuhle unobhala weCOSATU xana be-explaina the resolution to support the ANC and to campaign for the ANC towards the local government elections. Uthe asina choice. If we are not supporting the ANC, who are we going to support? That is why the city sisestopini party silinde nina. Kuyivela nto ithi siredi. Silinde nina. Can nothing just contest state power under the conditions that we are finding ourselves in. Unzima ke umtshato, akho nto inzima njengomtshato lo sikuwo kokubonakala into yobana mnye lo mntu uthanda omnye. Unzima umtshato ocalanye kubonakala into yokubana nguwe omane ukhwebele ebhedini. If the ANC doesn't change, we find ourselves in that. We are in alliances, ncwadini, but when it comes to action, we are not in alliance. The resolution yesterday, comrades, is to mobilize our members to go to national strike, because the government, as led by the African National Congress, fails to implement the agreement taken by both parties that were in the chambers or in negotiations. The resolution of 1 of 2018, OT, for the next 3 years, ijonge lento, le resolution, isetyenziswe kunyaka oqala, yasetyenziswa kunyaka wesibini, come the 3rd year, the last term. Remember, comrades, when we signed that, when we went to negotiations, we said we need a single term. Umqashi wathi no, mayibe multi-term, but multi-term yakho yathini, uyaphinde uyayikhanyela. Sihlalo, ipati ithe cwaka, abasebenzi abanyuselwa. Asiyiva ipati. The vanguard of the working class is silent. In whatever platform that ipati finds itself, thina as workers, sifuna ukuva into yobana ingcola isithi rhulumente nyusela abasebenzi. Comrades, we are out of budget. Now, negotiations have started for 2020, 2021. Urhulumente uza eze sithi akananto epesini. Uthi for the next 3 years, abasebenzi abazukunyuselwa mali. But still, thina as leaders of COSATU, funeka sime sibheke ebantwini sithi let's campaign for the African National Congress. You will recall in how we yakhupha media statement saying they are not going to utilize their resources in campaigning for the African National Congress. That is why COSATU called for special CC so as to discuss the matter. It was not easy, comrades, to convince one another that we must support the ANC moving towards. Other affiliates were saying, let's go to the Special Congress of COSATU and reverse the resolution. But we said, comrades, no, let's give. I'm not sure, but this is not the second chance. I'm not sure which chance is it. We said, we convinced one another and said, let's give the ANC whatever chance. Maybe they will self-correct. Comrades, before nihlale, as COSATU, asingabazi, comrades, sihlalo, kwi-resolution ka-step aside. We fully support, as COSATU, that all leaders who are charged criminally, they must step aside up until their cases are resolved. If we have been exonerated by the court of law, uzawuphinda ubuye comrade, but now that usenalento usenesisixaka-xaka, ndiyazi kum indaba yecase qabane, xa une-case you don't think straight. Do you want to have leaders ezinjalo? We don't want them. Mazihlale ziyojongana nantoni namatyala wazo. Sihlalo ndithunywe i-leadership ye-COSATU before ndiyeke ukuthi masibambane. Let's hold regular bilaterals and discuss and shape the way forward for i-region yethu esikuyo. If asizukuhlala samane sibizana xana sifuneka sinike i-messages of support, ayisincedisi loo nto. we are still saying Communist Party is the vanguard of the working class. That's what Comrade Chris died fighting for. That Communist Party must always remain relevant. Asizukuxoka ke niyasibonisa xa sinibizile singabasebenzi niyeza. Iqabane lethu leli qabane lethu lesibini okanye lesithathu salibiza sakhe salincama. Ndifuna ukuxoka Comrade Sihlalo obambeleyo sibuna incamarha umhlawumbi udla ngokuthiwa a new broom sweeps clean. You are being given a new name. Bambela Sihlalo. Sizoyibhala ileta now that ulibambela Sihlalo. Maybe sakuyifumana just a simple thing. A deployee to give us a message of support. Noma izasinika a message of support igqibe ithatha icomputer yayo iphume ngapha. At least the workers of this region would have seen that there was a leader of the ANC in the house. Sanko manyanani please. Masingaxaki into yobana masimeme iphini Sanko. Masiyazi into yobana iSanko in this region it's one. Sanisixakekisa apha. Ngandla awethu.
Mandla. Awethu. Comrades kaMcinga uElijah Bhayi manje xa ithethe. Comrades ngosawubiza isithethi se-leader le-alliance. I-African National Congress yona emelwe nguComrade umawethu uMarhatha. Over to you, Comrade yam.
Himakaya gugudi himaka himakaya di himaka higugudi himaka himakaya gugudi Himakaya Kubudi. Director, Comrade Ngafunwa, the leadership of the Communist Party, as led by the Central Executive Committee member, BUTI, the Alliance component here present today, the Hani family, and all of you comrades who are here to witness this great day. Receive our revolutionary greetings from Dr. Khubusana region. First and foremost, Program Director, let's take this opportunity to congratulate the South African Communist Party on its centenary. Again, Comrade Chair, allow us to thank the Skenjana Khoji district for inviting us to this public lecture. Program Director, I feel honored to give a message of support on this public lecture of Comrade Chris Hani, one of the most iconic leaders of the struggle for liberation. We're here to celebrate the life of one of the bravest soldiers, the Chief of Staff of Mkondo Wesizwe, and the General Secretary of the South African Communist Party. President Mandela
referred to Comrade Hani on his funeral as the greatest revolutionaries this country has ever known. Comrade Chris Hani was a leader who was physically and morally brave. It was his compassion and humanity that made him a popular leader. What we have learned from him is that his popularity did not confuse him to think that he was better than the liberation movement. Comrade Hani's humble upbringing at Sabalele in Tsofimba, Mvaba, did not change him after so many years in exile. He remained humble and amongst the people, the poor and the vulnerable. As we celebrate the life and times of Comrade Hani, we must also remember that our people are still subjected to the triple challenges of poverty, inequality, and unemployment, which he fought tirelessly to eradicate throughout his life. Comrade Chris Hani loved freedom, and that he was committed to free the people of South Africa from the bondage of apartheid. Comrade Chris Hani embodied what Dr. Kuma referred to in 1941's African National Conference, when he said, I quote, "To Congress we must be loyal and true. For Congress we must forget any personal or sectional interest or gain. We must put the cause and the interest of the people before any expediency. To be the true leader, we must put the interest and welfare of our people above our own." Close quote. That is the kind of life Comrade Chris Hani lived while he still breathed. Comrade Chris Hani was a true communist who loved and respected the party. He decided to concentrate his effort on building the South African Communist Party. He understood very well that there would be a need to build the party for it to be a truly democratic and democratizing force in a post-apartheid South Africa, which is committed on taking the struggle of the working class and the poor forward. As we celebrate his life, we call upon all communists that his idea must not die. The South African Communist Party must be the main agent of change. And his life exemplified the total commitment and willingness to sacrifice one's life for an idea of a free South Africa. We must honor Uchonyane by bringing services to the people and listen to their challenges. We must work together towards local government elections for a decisive ANC victory. We must build unity and renewal in the ANC and in the Revolutionary Alliance. As we celebrate the 28th anniversary of his death, we must follow in his footsteps of this great giant. Because if we fail to do so, history will judge us harshly whether we have the courage to live up to the extraordinary legacy which Comrade Chris Hani left behind. On behalf of Dr. Khubusana Region, Comrade Chair, we wish you all the best. Long live Comrade Chris Hani, long live. Long live the spirit of Comrade Chris Hani, long live. Mandla, away too.
Mandla. Comrades, siyaye kuyisongeni ngoku qha ndimboni ke ngoku lo muntu besimnike ithasi uComrade umawethu. Kanhlabeni isigwijo comrades. Kanhlabeleni igwijo ma comrade.
Amandla. 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 Long live the spirit of Krizanye, long live. Long live the spirit of Krizanye, long live. Forward with Tripartite Alliance, forward. Forward with Tripartite Alliance, forward. Forward with Reconfigured Alliance, forward. Forward to the party of power, forward. Amandla. Comrades, mandizibulisele kuwo wonke umuntu olapha namhlanje. Inkokheli zonke lapha ngaphambili nenkokheli zonke ezinathi namhlanje. Umsebenzi endiwunikweyo mncinci kakhulu. Kwaye ukhaphukhaphu. Kuba isithethi sosuku endicelwe uba ndisazise namhlanje kwaye ndisiphakamise. Ndicinga sonke esilapha siyasazi isithethi sosuku sanamhlanje. Ngoko ke siwenze lo msebenzi abe khaphukhaphu kakhulu. Comrade, isithethi sethu sosuku namhlanje, part of what we are as a communist party, we owe it to his contribution and the contribution of his generation. Comrade BUTI would have made a contribution even in the formative stages of South African Student Congress. We raise this point, comrades, because what we see of our organization got traits in contribution of its leaders. Because when SASCO and its formative stages, what it has came to be now, the generation of Comrade BUTI and their leadership made this giant student organization to form to what it is today. What we have as a communist party namhlanje, comrade, many of us, if not all, would attest to the contribution that would have been made by a generation of Comrade MANAMELA when he came in as a national secretary. Because at the time he comes in, comrade, there is no reference to what the organization would have been before him. So that his leadership, since the relaunch of YCL, they had to establish an organization from scratch. So the contribution they've made, comrades, today, the leadership that you have of the Communist Party is a leadership that would have been a product of their leadership, having them relaunched and established YCL. Today, comrade, YCL has presence in every district. He has presence in every branch. He has presence in every province. And they've built this organization, comrade. Comrade BUTI has also, comrade, been a leader of the African National Congress. Comrade BUTI has also, comrade, been a member of parliament. Comrade BUTI has been a deputy minister not only from this term. And therefore, comrade, we are honored also as the provincial leadership that here in Skenjana Khoji, you have not quarantined the party. That even during the most difficult moments, you kept the fire burning and ensured that there is a voice of the proletariat, there is the voice of the working class. So we say, comrade, to yourselves, thank you very much for organizing the event of this nature, for ensuring that the memory and the life of Comrade Hani is remembered by all. When he died, comrade, personally, when he died, Comrade Hani, I was only 8 years old. So it's a day that it's very vivid on my mind. So comrades, but we stand today as if, comrades, sike sabambana izandla sahlala phansi sathetha naye uba utshonyana. When we have not seen him ngeliso lenyama, but through his deeds, comrade, nathi siziva ngathi siyamazi. And that is why, comrade, We must also thank you therefore for inviting Comrade BUTI Manamela today to be the one who's going to give us an address of the day. Comrade Manamela, the floor is yours.
Amandla. Long live the spirit of Chris Hani, long live. Long live the memory of Chris Hani, long live. Long live the legacy of Chris Hani, long live. Thank you very much, Comrade Mawetu. Let me extend greetings to the leadership of the SACP on behalf of the Central Committee, the leadership of the SACP in the province and in the district. Also those who gave their words in memory of Comrade Chris, the ANC, COSATU and Sanko, but also our Young Communist League, for those words that you've given. In 1991, in April, exactly 2 years before his assassination, Comrade Chris Hani went to the United States, where he spoke to a number of gatherings, students, but also the Communist Party of the United States, but he also addressed the media. And in one of the addresses to the media, he was asked about what he thinks of the then President of the US, George Bush, who made reference, which was not for the first time, that a US leader is making reference of such a notion of a new world order. And Comrade Chris was asked what he thinks of this notion of a new world order. And he said, if I can be allowed to quote him quite extensively, he said, well, George Bush speaks about a new world order, and for me, this sounds more like a slogan. A new world order can only exist when all of us tackles the problems facing the majority of the people everywhere in the world. And ordinary people want to have employment, they want houses, they want a decent educational system, they want hospitals and medical services, and they want to see a situation wherein there's a visible distribution of wealth, so that we don't have people who are extremely rich and people who are extremely poor. For me, I would certainly go along with a new world order if I see priority number one in the world is to ensure that nobody starves, that everybody has 3 meals a day, they have shelter, they can send their children to school without having to pay exorbitant fees, that he or she have reasonable access without, that he or she have reasonable access without having to pay fees to medical attention. Those are the basic things that a new world order should tackle. Certainly, a new world order should spend less on arms and armaments. We should have a situation, an atmosphere where every country feels free to pursue policies which are in the interest of the people. There must be no big brother here and no small brother. It must be a world order where we can discuss as equals without anybody playing the role of a bully, close quote. And this quote, these words of Comrade Chris are exactly what he represented for the entirety of his life until he was assassinated on the 10th of April 1993, when Comrade Mawetu was only 8 years old. And the assassination of Comrade Chris, as we said in the Central Committee statement this year, was not only the assassination of an individual, but it was the assassination of the leader of the Communist Party, was the assassination of a former chief of staff of Umkhonto Wesizwe. But it was also importantly the assassination of an individual who was determined and committed to overthrow a system that was perpetually keeping people into poverty, into unemployment, into perpetual want. A system whose intention was to consistently dispossess people of their land and to consistently exclude people from actively participating in the economy, but more importantly, to continuously exclude people from electing the leaders whom they want. And whether George Bush called it a new world order, or we call it the complete and total overthrow of the capitalist system, the intended outcome must be to address the basic needs of our people. And therefore, the assassination of Comrade Chris must not only be seen as the elimination of an individual, but an attempt to silence a communist party and a people from rightly taking their position in a society which had continuously and consistently excluded them. I'm using this quote, comrades, as a premise precisely because exactly from the day when Comrade Chris was assassinated, which was the 10th of April, 1993, more than a year later, on the 27th of April, 1994, all South Africans who were allowed to do so participated for the first time in an open democratic elections. But in that period, thousands, hundreds of thousands of South Africans died. And it was not only Comrade Chris Hani who was assassinated. Hundreds of thousands of young people were ambushed in their homes. Hundreds and thousands of young people were ambushed in universities, in schools, in workplaces, and they were sent straight to their graves. And the reason why they were killed directly by the apartheid system and indirectly by violence sponsored by the apartheid system is that their sole mission was to make sure that they create a new world order, or that they destroy a system that has perpetually kept them in continuous want, in continuous poverty, in continuous economic exclusion. And so in commemorating Comrade Chris Hani, we must remember that just in that period, more than in any other period in the struggle against the apartheid system, you can mention any other battle and confrontation between the apartheid regime and the armed forces of Umkhonto Wesizwe, or the self-defense units which were established and commandeered, amongst others by Comrade Chris Hani himself and many others, that more than in any other period, more lives were lost in that particular period when negotiations were taking place. Precisely because that period represented a serious threat to the ultimate overthrow of the apartheid regime, because it had gradually lost ground and control of government of this country. And therefore, when we remember Comrade Chris, we also need to remember the hundreds and thousands of people who died, mostly young people, whose sole mission was to create a democratic South Africa that was representative of all of us. But I'm also starting with that, comrades, because we need to take stock of what has happened from the 27th of April 1994, when the first person cast the ballot, to date, where there's uncertainty of what will come beyond the casting of the ballot. In 27 April 1994, the casting of the ballot represented so much hope, which was encompassed in what Comrade Chris Hani said in 1991. The complete and total overthrow of the apartheid system and the creation of a just society where everyone will have 3 meals a day, everyone will have a job, everyone will afford to take their children to school without having to pay exorbitant fees, and the list goes on of some of the commitments that the National Liberation Movement has made as part of its fight and the struggle against the apartheid system. So that casting of the ballot, the many lives that were lost, the assassination of Comrade Chris, all of those represented some form of hope that South Africa will become a better country. And so we need to take stock of what has happened, whether have we been able to create a new world order. And if we haven't been able to, what are the challenges that we've been confronted with in the way towards where we are at, but also more importantly, what is to be done? And answering the question, what is to be done, is not as simple as dreaming up solutions, just as we've seen some political parties do, or it's not as simple as thinking about whether what is to be done represent your own interest as a leader or as a party, but requires engagement with the people continuously in terms of what are the challenges that we're faced with, and importantly, what are the programs that we need to put into place as a Communist Party, as the Alliance, and as society in general. So, since Chris Hani died, since the first ballot was cast, have we been able to create a new world order? Or put differently, in his own words, in the same interview, have we been able to overthrow this system that has perpetually kept the majority of South Africans in abject poverty and exploitation? And I hope that at the end of our engagement, when we go back and reflect in our branches and everywhere else, we should be able to not only take stock of where we are, but also critically think about what needs to be done. Undeniably, and I think those who are prophets of doom would want to suggest that not much has been done for the last, how many years? Since 1994. How old is Mawetu? But progress has been done in ensuring that we make an impact on the lives of the majority of South Africans. A lot of houses have been built. Some land, to a certain extent, have been handed over to people who have been dispossessed. There was a period wherein we believed the economy was growing to the extent that it gave hope to many. We've had, and still do, have some black people who ordinarily would not have accumulated the wealth that they have, and some of them are listed in international magazines that lists the wealthiest people of the world. But also black people are participating quite extensively in the economy of our country. Some strides have been made as it relates to education, as it relates to health. The hospital that was named after Chris Hani, the Chris Hani Baragwanath Hospital, is probably one of the best in the continent and maybe even in the world. So a lot of things have happened. We speak about, when we go out there, access to water, access to electricity, better roads in places where there were never roads. Black farmers, to a certain extent. Black people now have a choice in terms of the careers that they want to pursue and are no longer limited to careers which were only meant to sustain the apartheid system, teachers, nurses, all of that. So we have now some few black actuarial scientists and a whole range of other professions which could have never been imagined under an apartheid government. Now, all of this represent, to a certain extent, socio-economic progress that has had massive impact and transformation on the lives of millions of South Africans who ordinarily would have been excluded. But of course, progress does not have or does not come without its challenges. And some of the challenges was a result of external factors, and yet some of the challenges are as a result of the fact that we are yet to confront the system which continues to perpetuate poverty, unemployment, and want, particularly amongst the majority of South Africans. One of the most pressing issues that our country has been engaged with currently is the question of access to education. And of course, the Minister of Higher Education, who is the General Secretary of the Communist Party, has somewhat been subjected to, or rather the issue has somewhat been personalized. You know, where's Blade, the communist? Why is he not giving us free education? And all of that. Communists are leading that department. Education should be free, and so forth. There's the question of corruption. We have the Zondo Commission, which we hope at some point it will wrap up and conclude its work and send criminals to jail. You have challenges around jobs. We've lost so many jobs over the last year and a half as a result of COVID-19, but also we've lost this many jobs because of the structural economic challenges that we're faced with. But all of this are not because of some of the excuses that we give. We've got budgetary constraints, we have this, we have that, and all of that. These are part of what constitute the crisis of capitalism. And the sooner we confront that question, that in a capitalist society, it is only those who have money to go to university, only those who have money to go to private schools, afford quality education, only those who have money to afford better beds in hospitals during COVID times, only those who have money can be able to afford a better life. That capitalism divides our society between those who have and those who have not. And that as a communist party, it is not our duty to offer apologies for a capitalist system. But our duty is to keep the struggle for socialism consistently on the agenda, as Comrade Chris has put it in 1991, as the forefathers and the founders of the Communist Party did in 1921. We're celebrating our centenary this year. And yet, we are more preoccupied with glossing over what the challenges our country are faced with, and almost become the principal apologists of the failures of capitalism, instead of becoming the proponents of a socialist future, of building this new world order that Comrade Chris Hani was talking about, of dismantling what was historically presented as apartheid, but essentially as a capitalist exploitative system. In the same interview that Comrade Chris gave, he says that one of the things that we will do as the Communist Party, beyond electoral victory, would be to work towards the consolidation of democracy, would be to work towards the total elimination of racism, will be to work towards equal opportunities for all South Africans. And in that way, we would be putting ourselves on a much higher pedestal in the struggle for socialism. And that at that time, socialism was not an agent issue on the agenda. And of course, we understand what he was saying within the context of the discussions and debates which were taking place in the alliance, in South Africa, but also in the world. The Soviet Union had just collapsed and disintegrated. The West had declared unipolarity and themselves as superpowers. And so it was important that the SACP and the alliance navigate through all of those landmines if we are to institute or if we are to install a democratic dispensation, but also in a way within which communists were vilified. Chris Hani himself, as the chief communist, the most vilified, and even sent to his grave. So we understand the context within which he was making that interview and that statement that we need to consolidate a democratic South Africa, and in consolidating that democratic South Africa, we will be building a platform for a socialist future. Some years ago, I think it was in the 20th anniversary of the commemoration of Comrade Chris, which was in 2013, we began to speak about the distinction between building monuments for Chris Hani and sustaining the legacy of Chris Hani. He has built Chris Hani Baragwanath Hospital and name it after him, and many others, streets, schools, villages, squatter camps, suburbs, and all of that. Now, that's recognizing Comrade Chris by building monuments. But a much more urgent challenge now and hopefully this is what the Young Communist League and the younger comrades would be able to help us take forward, is to build a legacy for Comrade Chris Hani. And building a legacy means that we have to attain some of the basic things that Comrade Chris Hani spoke about when he spoke about creating a new world order, which is an alternative new world order, as spoken about by George W. Bush at that time. I said earlier that we seem to be, when we engage with issues around education, for instance, apologists for the capitalist system and suggest that Nzimande must deliver free education, higher education, in the context of a capitalist system. It's impossible. Because the structure of the capitalist system is that any service that is provided to a people must be on the basis of its profitability. Yes, the SACP is in an alliance, in a governing alliance, and this alliance intention as a collective, it's not the pursuit of socialism. We want to fight corruption, but corruption is inherent in a capitalist system, and we will always gloss it with ethical and moral arguments. But show me any capitalist who is on the top of the wealthiest of them all, who follow any of these ethics and any of these morals that we want to see pursued. Some comrades here, and I'm speaking with no sympathy to any of them, in your metro who were suspended, political leaders in structures and in local government and all of that, who are alleged to have committed some misdemeanors. Corruption. Of course, it has to be proven. But we must always ask the bigger question. Where those ones who are in the private sector were colluding and conniving and have profited from all of these activities, because they somehow find themselves not mentioned. Because that's the nature of capitalism. So business must be distinguished from these politically corrupt ones. And I'm not saying this because we must absolve anyone who is accused of corruption or having broken the law. But we must always remember that the brother-in-law of corruption is capitalism. And that as long as you have a capitalist system, you will always have corruption. For as long as we have capitalism, we will always have people without shelter, people without hunger. That capitalists would rather destroy food than see it being given to those who are hungry for free. And so what is urgent now is that the political system that we installed in 1994 has mainly survived precisely because of the reforms that it introduced in trying to change the apartheid system. But if we look at the features that kept the apartheid system alive versus the extent of transformation that we've been able to make in our society, if any of you here can honestly say to me that if you look at the political system, the judiciary, the media, the economy, all of this, which represents sides of power in society, if those have drastically transformed from what they used to be under apartheid, then I would say that that which Comrade Chris Hani died for has been achieved. But if you look at it, all of this sides of struggles that I'm mentioning, yes, we have black judges who are presiding over the Constitutional Court, the High Courts, and everywhere else. Yes, we have black journalists. Yes, we have black businessmen and women who are mentioned here and everywhere else in the country as being amongst the wealthiest. And yes, we have the ANC and the Alliance as the leading political party in parliament and in government. But if we look at how all of this have had an impact on the majority of our people, we may come out embarrassed if that's the report we're going to give to Comrade Chris and the hundreds of thousands of young people who were sent to their graves by the apartheid regime, fighting against the very same system. And it's important that I emphasize that we have made tremendous progress. But the reality is that 20, 30 years down the line, the racial question in all of this points that I'm referring to is still predominant. A black leader of the DA just this week was accused of having forged his qualifications, and in the same breath, whether true or not, a white leader of the DA is accused of having forged her qualification. You know what the treatment of that particular issue has been. Last year in Mpumalanga, a white farmer was reported to have poisoned the cattle of black farmers by poisoning the water and therefore poisoning the cattle, and to a certain extent putting the lives of black people in danger. And nothing was done. And this year, the very same farmer has killed 3 black farmers. It means that the state institutions which were responsible for prosecuting and sending this white farmer to jail have failed. On a daily basis, we hear about young and old people complaining about white privilege. And these are superficial struggles, but they're important struggles that reflects the fact that the system still remains intact. When we complain about or highlight issues around gender-based violence. It is the majority who are black women who are suffering from and are failed by the state institutions and society in general that is supposed to be protecting them. And so, remembering Comrade Chris, comrades, should not only be about coming here and commemorating him and giving flowery speeches about the fact that he fought in Wanki and Sipolilo campaigns, or about the fact that he was the chief of staff of Umkhonto Wesizwe, or about the fact that he was a student in distinction in Fort Hare, or that he was a youth leader who crossed the borders of this country to go and fight in exile when he was only 19. But commemorating Chris, Hani, must also be about reflecting on our own challenges. We're only as good as what happens at home. And probably in many of our homes where we slaughter a small animal and speak to the ancestors. Yes, maybe that's important. But if we only do that without supporting that with action to change the conditions which we find ourselves, then that meat is as good as wasted. This commemoration would be as good as wasted if we do not speak about what is it that our Communist Party, what is it that the working class and the poor should be doing in order to change the circumstances for the better. We've tried doing something else for the last 20 to 30 years. It means that something different has to be done. Now, what are those things that needs to be done? I said to the district secretary, I'm only interested in speaking for 30 minutes. He said, well, we have bananas and apples, so you can speak for as long as you can. So, but I'm going to try and sum up, Comrade District Secretary. The first and most important task that we're all confronted with is building an independent Communist Party. If you listen to Comrade Chris over and over again on many platforms and on many occasions, when he was asked about the future of the Communist Party, he always put an emphasis on building an independent Communist Party. Now, this doesn't suggest in any way that the Communist Party must break from the alliance. If that happens because we have an independent Communist Party, then let it be. Nah? I wish I could say it in Xhosa. Building an independent Communist Party, comrades, is not equal to advocating for the breaking of the alliance. But if we build an independent Communist Party, to the extent that it leads to the breaking of the alliance, then let it be. And this is why this is important, comrades. We cannot have a situation wherein the role of the party is reduced into an extension of the electoral machinery of the alliance. Because the party is much more than that. We cannot have a Communist Party which is reduced into negotiations for positions for ministers and premiers and MECs and mayors and all of that. Because what it means is that if that's the role of the party, then that vision that Comrade Chris spoke about will always be put in abeyance. Because I will always be thinking about what will happen to me if we have an independent Communist Party that consistently puts the agenda of socialism on the table. Because I may also putting at risk my position as Deputy Minister. And if we have leaders of the Communist Party thinking about their positions at that moment, then we might as well just be the electoral desk, the red electoral desk of the alliance. Because that's not what the role of the Communist Party should be. And that's why I said earlier on that if that's what the Communist Party would or should be, all we would do is to become apologists of the capitalist system instead of being the vanguard of the working class that pursues a socialist agenda at all material times, whether you're a deputy minister, whether you're not. But importantly, in the party, your role is to strengthen the independence of the party. It means a party that's not only concerned about who's going to be the councillor, but a party that's also concerned as to whoever is the councillor. There is water, there's electricity, there's education, there's health, there's all the basic necessities within this community. Because in that way, our contest is not for power, but our contest is for changing the lives of our people. And even if our contest is for the pursuance of power, we want to use that power to change the lives of the people as opposed to changing our own lives as the leaders who are elected into those positions. Sometimes we have to sit back and ask ourselves, why are comrades at each other's throats? If party unity means serving the interests of the people as a whole. But it is only when we substitute that role that the party should be playing with something else, which is self-interest. And it compromises the independence of the party. Yes, whoever is competent and a member of the Communist Party should be allowed to become councillors, mayors, MECs, and all of that. But if our comrade at Buffalo City campus comes to me and say to me that we have the challenges of the NSFAS, that's the YCL, NSFAS not paying allowance and a whole range of other challenges, I can't say to these comrades, but you are the Young Communist League, and you can't be doing what you're doing because the Ministry of Higher Education is led by communists. That's basically incapacitating an independent structure of the Communist Party and saying to them, you must not represent the needs, interests, and aspiration of your constituency. You must think about how you are embarrassing me as Deputy Minister in that position. The independence of the party, Comrade Chris Hani said, must be the most sacrosanct of them all. And that if the party loses its independence, as I said earlier on, we might as well be an electoral desk of the alliance whose intention is to apologize for whatever mess the capitalist system has created in our country. So that's the first thing, comrades. Already in 1991, Comrade Chris was saying our role post a democratic dispensation would be to build active branches, active districts, and to build a party cadreship whose main intention would be to look into the future, and the future being socialism. And therefore, an independent Communist Party also means, what does a branch of the SACP do on any other given day? We have here branch secretaries, branch chairpersons. What's our role on any other given day in pursuing the struggle for socialism? That's important. We're going into local government elections, general elections, I think a year or so later. And in some instances, precisely because of the compromised independence of the Communist Party, we're going to have party cadres tearing each other apart because being a leader of the party in a branch almost automatically qualifies you to be a councillor. So the question of the independence of the Communist Party is very, very crucial as part of what is to be done moving into the future. Secondly, the comrades from the YCL spoke about it. The question of the relationship between the SACP and state power. And this discussion is important, comrades, because we seem to be confusing the alliance electoral platform and the participation of communists in an alliance government or in an ANC-led government to what the party's attitude should be towards state power. And that we're probably building up to our next Congress, make an assessment of our resolution and also what needs to be done. There is no political party worth its salt anywhere in the world. Anywhere in the world. Al-Jamaa, you can mention them. Even those that had 1 seat in parliament or 0 seats. There is no political party in the world whose interest is not about seizing and transforming the state towards the interest of its own agenda. We still remain probably one of the biggest communist parties in the world. Whose participation in the contest for state power or elections happens through an alliance. Now we've done that much and up to this far. And we've got to ask ourselves, what is it that needs to be done if the agenda of socialism of the Communist Party, of the working class and the poor of this country, has to seriously be put back into the agenda should things still remain the same. We've taken the resolution at the last Congress. We're having discussions building up to the many conferences that are coming, and I think it's an issue that we need to openly reflect upon. So that's the second and most important one. If we do not engage quite seriously and honestly on those two issues, we may end up only becoming a subtext of struggles which are not even in the interest of the working class and the poor. Yes, let's all rally behind the campaign against corruption, well and good. That's important. Let's all rally behind against all of these campaigns that have been taking place. But if we don't rally within those campaigns with the understanding that our agenda is the agenda of socialism, then we might as well close shop. The fourth and probably final and very problematic, I think, point on what is to be done is that we really need to introspect what has been happening in the Communist Party in the recent period, and whether what has been happening in the Communist Party in the recent period helps us to move forward with the agenda of socialism. Now, in many instances, when this kind of a discussion happens, people tend to think about leadership and a change in leadership. And I think that's an easier route to pursue. It's quite easy to say so-and-so must go, so-and-so must come in, and all of that. But you will only be achieving cosmetic changes if all that you pursue is a new leader, without concretely introspecting the party, its structures, the kind of traditions that we've accumulated over the last 20 to 30 years, and how they've had an impact on what the party is. The kind of communist cadre that we've built, that we've recruited. We have anything between 300 and 400,000 paid membership. What does that mean? What are those people doing? What are each one of those members of the Communist Party doing wherever they are, wherever they find in themselves? The influence, the engagement, the tasks that they are undertaking. It could be in the workplace. It could be wherever that they are placed. What are the reasons why they've joined the Communist Party? Or they were recruited into the Communist Party? Or maybe some of them, their membership was paid for into the Communist Party. Then all of those factors have to be looked into beyond the simplistic question of leadership. Because once we've clarified ourselves on this fourth point of what is to be done, on the introspection of what the Communist Party has been in the recent period, the Central Committee always emphasizes the fact that we're the most united. It doesn't mean that we do not have our differences. It only means that we're the most united. And what's the nature of those differences, and to what extent have they either incapacitated the Communist Party from moving forward towards socialism, or have helped us to accelerate the route towards socialism? The only truest and genuine way in which we can remember Comrade Chris is if we build a new world order, if we change the capitalist system, and if the Communist Party becomes much more firmer, much more focused on the struggle for socialism. That's the only way. Otherwise, If we're not doing that, this will be just one of those rituals we are required to do on an annual basis. Amandla!
Amandla. 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 Long live the undying spirit of Comrade Chris Hani. Long live the undying spirit of Comrade Chris Hani. Long live the undying spirit of Comrade Oliver Reginald Tambo. Mandla. Thanks, comrades. Comrade uBhuti, comrade ningambondi sayakwenza interview apha phandle. But thina singakhabe siqhuba comrades neprogram. Lena yethu. Ngoku comrades kwi-item yokugqibela. I-vote of thanks yona sayenzela ku-Deputy District Secretary yeSikhenjana Rhoji District, uComrade uMnyamezeli Ndlazi. Over to you, comrade.
Before Ninibulela, I just want to say, the South African Communist Party is always a disciplined organization. And each and every member of the South African Communist Party must be a disciplined member. Babacothileyo ufika apha. Basibezisileyo kuba siqale emva. Mabayazi bayamosha. And abamoshi thina bamosha umzabalazo of this organization, of this world. And therefore, bangaphinde bayenze loo nto. Naba bengezanga. Basimosha. But then to say, comrades, to the speakers, listeners, namhlanje, as the executive committee yaseSikhenjana Rhoji, starting from the African National Congress to the Young Communist League of South Africa, to the National Civic Organization and the Congress of South African Trade Unions. I hope, and we are saying, ababalapa, bayochaza kuba it is Isikhenjana Rhoji ngombulelo ongazenzisiyo. Siyayibulela le mibutho ngokuba nizosixhasa namhlanje. Please relay that to your organizations, and I believe that nithunyiwe. And we can't do that, and we can't do this public lecture, Comrade Mawethu, without going through that office of the South African Communist Party at the provincial office. I hope Comrade Mawethu uyawusibulelela nakwi-PEC ye South African Communist Party. Just before I sit down and say, kuni nonke bahlali, maqabane am, members of the South African Communist Party, and all the other people balapha nihambe nigoduke nifike emakhaya. I just want to say, just to emphasize from the very first speaker and the very last speaker, that the South African Communist Party must remember one thing, that in order to achieve our goals and objectives, we need to destroy that we do not want. and is in existence now. That is the current system of capitalism. To the new world order, that is for the people to live in peace and harmony. Bangalambi, bangahlupheki, bahlale ngoxolo. Socialism is the new world order. Amandla!
Okay.
Comrades, thanks once more, man. Our program, comrade, has come to an end now. Sawubonana ke ngoku kwi-trenches. Njengoba sitshilo, we took that vow that we want to be like Chris Hani. So iphelile komntu ngatsho ugwitsho, comrades. Siphume sihambe kakuhle.